This video will teach you how to get your first muscle up. I'll go over strength prerequisites, specific movements that yield carryover, and of course, go over technique. So, what is the number one thing that you should do before attending this exercise? Develop base strength. Get a little bit strong before skipping several steps. Oftentimes I'll hear guys saying, Alex, I can do 8 pull-ups, yet whenever I attempt a muscle up, I fall over. I'm unable to get my body over the bar. The reason for this is very simple. You don't need more drills. You need more basic strength training. You're still a novice at pull-ups. Not saying you need to have an advanced level of strength, but there are basic prerequisites. And in my experience of dealing with people, that appears to be 12 to 15 repetitions. We're usually getting about 15 proper repetitions. And if we're talking about the weighted world, 1 plate. So 45 pounds, maybe 65 tops. Shouldn't need more than that. Besides that, it's all about training specifically for the muscle up and learning the groove behind it, which is very important. So check your ego first and maybe dedicate a few months to developing base strength before attempting a more advanced move. Now, if you think you're strong enough, let me go over some specific movements. The first exercise I would highly recommend is the sternum pull-up for 2 reasons. 1, it is a full range of motion pull in which your body is actually touching the bar, and you're going to need that specific strength to learn the muscle up since you're going beyond chin over the bar. So it's a tough variation that gives you carryover while getting you jacked at the same time, which is very important. The bigger a muscle is, the higher the strength potential. So you're getting more out of less weight in this scenario, and you won't have to go weighted if you're actually doing this exercise properly while using it for volume, obviously. And then there's a second component, which is the fact that you're leaning back. In a typical muscle up, you're not pulling straight up and down. It's kind of angled a little bit. That is the best way to maximize your leverages. So the sternum pull-up, you're building the correct muscles, you're doing full range of motion, and you're learning how to lean back a little bit. All specific, and that's why you have to get stronger at them. So treat this as one of your base builders. And then to complement that, I would strongly recommend clap pull-ups. I would extend this to all sports. If you want to become more explosive, incorporate plyometrics of some type. And in a muscle up, it's not some slow movement unless you're really strong. It's going to be a fast exercise. So clap pull-ups are the most specific thing you could do for most people. So again, refine that technique, getting more explosive, more or less weight, just giving you carry overall. It's really freaking simple. There's not much for me to say. And yeah, those are the 2 most important exercises. If you can rep out pull-ups with a 45-pound plate or be able to do 15 strict, and then you're doing the clap pull-ups and the sternum pull-ups to complement it, you should honestly have the necessary strength. Beyond that, it's about refining the movement, which I'm going to go over very briefly. So as I talked about before, it's not up and down. You're leaning back a little bit, angling your body. So a really good drill is doing exactly that. Not trying to get over the bar, but just pulling and then throwing yourself back. Almost like you're pushing away from the bar. So try to pull and push at the same time, if that makes sense in your mind. Get away from the bar as far as possible and teach that drill in, okay? And when you're doing the clap pull-ups, that should be the same premise, right? You're not just clapping up and down, you're clapping backwards, right? And then for the grip, you want to cup your hands over. Now, some guys recommend the full-on false grip where you're like that, which is obviously what you're going to do with gymnastic rings. But in my experience, you don't have to go all the way there. Just cup it a little bit and make sure that thumb is over the bar. This way, you're not just pulling up and down, but you're scooping, right? So when you're away from the bar, you can scoop over it. And that's typically one of the hardest parts for most people, not turning the hands. If you keep them completely straight, good luck getting over the bar. You're going to get stuck every single time. So you see how this all plays in together? You're building the correct muscles, you have the strength base, right? And then you have an arc-type motion in which you're pulling yourself backwards explosively while turning the hands over. And it's that synchronized movement that allows you to get the muscle up and maximize your leverages. Then obviously when you get started, you're going to be kicking with the legs a bit to try to get over that bar. That's perfectly fine, but over time, you reduce that. And eventually, it's just all upper body. You're pulling explosively, you do the dip part at the top, and you're good to go. And by the way, I didn't talk about the dip strength requirements that much because there's not much for me to say regarding that. It's a very simple requirement. Like if you can do bodyweight dips for decent repetitions, you should be fine. So it's really the pull itself that's going to be challenging for most. So develop the correct musculature, attack some of these exercises and drills, and honestly, you should be fine as long as your base strength is on point before attempting any of this stuff. Should be very few plateaus. The muscle up is not this crazy advanced exercise, right? People think that it is, but really, if you were to dive into different forms of calisthenics or even use gymnastic rings, you'd realize very quickly that this is just a starting point for many things. Yeah, there are some requirements, but it's honestly realistic for a huge percentage of my audience to achieve. And you could do it this year. You can do it within a few months. I'm telling you right now, it's very possible. So that's all I got to say in today's video. I hope you learned this exactly how I did it, and it's what I recommend you do as well. So try this out and enjoy the muscle up gains.